in 2012 through 2015. My first question stating about the towers is, why didn't Mustaway Towers LLC put the temporary tower on the town's property on Mustaway Road? It would have made more sense to have the permanent standby communications tower in one spot. I also would like to see the very simple lease the town drew up and the town's contract with Mustaway Towers LLC if I can. Also, I would like to quote a statement that the temporary tower is at no cost to the town. It's part of the permanent town's contract. Nobody in this world today does anything for nothing. B, will get something in return later. C, already got something in return. And D, it's not like the old days doing business. After I get my answers to these questions, I'll apologize for the other half of my apology. Here is an example myself, hearing a bunch of rumors causing concern and possible problems. This is why they need to be addressed when the Board of Selectmen hear about them from their sources, snitches, because like the saying says, and I quote, never trust a politician and a car salesperson. That's it tonight.
Sure.
And Mark, I have to apologize again for what you did, saying that remark and everything else.
Thank you, Mr. Bialowitz.
Thanks, John.
Yep.
Thank you. Thank you.
Who else? Who else? Who else? Oh.
Good evening, gentlemen. How are you doing today? I would first like to object to the actual agenda as not having a specific time for when this meeting was going to occur. It just says after the special town meeting scheduled to begin at 7 p.m., which of course doesn't provide anybody with any specific time. Moving on, a little bit of education for you. A court case in New Britain was finally decided. A motion for reconsideration was denied by the court. The case is City of Meriden versus the Freedom of Information Commission, case number CV 17-603-5943-S. That has finally came to fruition at a Superior Court level, whereas the Freedom of Information Commission, that hears cases related to our FOIA Act, has routinely for the past 20 years ruled the same. And the basic ruling is that if two members of a multi-member agency meet, it activates the open meetings requirements of our FOIA Act. It's really been this way since the FOIA Act was made, and has about a 20-year history at the FOIA Commission ruling that way. And this court case is really the first one to make it a concrete decision for the FOIA Commission's viewpoint. I see issues related to this. For example, East Lyme Historic Properties Commission meeting, minute meetings of their December 5th meeting of 2017, where they note a prior meeting had actually occurred between the members of the commission, B. Lowe and B. Hobby, met with Joe Smith to simplify the language for this ordinance for passage by the Board of Selectmen. That meeting should have been noticed to the public, should have been held in public, so that we can understand the workings and how the town works and does its business. Unfortunately, the two members, Lowe and Hobby, ignored our open meetings laws and held this meeting with Joe Smith, basically in Joe Smith's office. Obviously, we can't all fit in Joe Smith's office, so I think it's evidence that they didn't intend this to be open to the public as well. So I'll be providing copies of the memorandum of decision for the board. to read. It's very interesting. And I noticed that, I've also noticed at the General Assembly, they hold a lot of meetings behind closed doors as well. You know, the Open Meetings Act applies to them as well. And there was a recent, just for your information, there was a recent court in Colorado that went to the Supreme Court in reference to the issue of caucuses. And that Supreme Court has similar laws as Connecticut, ruled that caucus meetings for members of the General Assembly, because of the state constitution that requires meetings be held in public in Colorado, which they do also in Connecticut, does not allow members of the General Assembly to conduct meetings behind closed doors under the caucus exemption. So that's kind of special for the members of the General Assembly because of our state constitution that requires all debate to be done in public. So that's kind of interesting court case as well. But as far as the town is concerned, there's no question anymore that if two members of a multi-member agency, which could include the Board of Selectmen and many other boards, meet to do the business of the town, it has to be done in public. There has to be meeting minutes produced. A recent decision by the Superior Court a couple of weeks ago actually discussed minute meetings being needed to be produced, even for agencies that are no longer in existence. So, as you know, the board may have created special committees or special task forces to do business for the town that last a short period of time, maybe weeks or maybe days, maybe months. Once that kind of special agency is done with its business, does not relieve it to produce minutes of meetings. And it's interesting that violation of the non-creation of minutes is a continual violation. Every day is a different violation. Once you are required to produce minutes of the meetings, every day you don't is a new violation of the act. So that's very interesting. So if you have any questions in reference to the court decision, it's here. It's very interesting if you want to go online and read the Freedom Information Commission's brief to the court, which was favorable decision for the FOIA Commission. It goes in a little bit more detail as to examining why the FOIA Commission, and hence the court, has ruled that if any two members of a multi-member agency meet, it activates our open meetings requirements. So I think it kind of solidifies the 20-year history of the FOIA Commission in a Superior Court decision that I think the town would accept as being binding upon the town and its various sub-agencies.
Thank you.
No question?
Anyone else? Okay, we'll move on in our agenda.
I'll move to approve the Board of Selectmen special meeting minutes, the East Lyme Police Department walkthrough of February 7th, 2018, as submitted.
I'll second.
We have a motion. It's been seconded. Any further comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain?
I'll move to approve the Board of Selectmen special meeting minutes, executive session of February 7th, 2018, as submitted.
Second.
Any comments, questions? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? And the regular meeting?
Move to approve the Board of Selectmen regular meeting minutes of February 7th, 2018, as submitted.
Second.
Comments, corrections? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? There's no old business tonight. We'll move right on to new business.
Did you want?
Did I jump over it again?
Yeah.
Darn it. Consent calendar, please.
Move to approve the consent calendar for the meeting of February 21st, 2018, in the amount of $13,356.29.
I'll second.
Any comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? Can I go to new business?
Yeah.
Aye, aye. So there's two short items before we get to the Board of Ed budget. We wanted to get some, in case we had some department heads here, we actually do have one here to present this evening. The first one is a discussion of possible action of the 2017 hazard mitigation plan. It had been given out to you. We've had some discussion with Mrs. Hardy, and we also had our engineers go through the plan one more time. There was the issue about the independent police not being updated, and there was one other issue. Darn if I know. I can remember. And what's going to happen is the COG will put in a RADA sheet, so an amendment to the hazard mitigation plan that will be put as part of the plan that will correct items in the plan. And I think those are the only two items that were identified, and I apologize, I don't know who the second one is. It's very minor, kind of a more housekeeping than it was an issue regarding the actual hazard mitigation plan. This is already a plan that's up down in Washington, D.C. It's at FEMA right now. It just needs the towns of the COG to individually ratify their mitigation plan. Thank you.
Okay, I'll put out, whereas the town of East Lyme has historically experienced severe damage from natural hazards, and it continues to be vulnerable to the effects of those natural hazards profiled in the plan. For example, flooding, high wind, thunderstorms, winter storms, earthquakes, dam failure, and wildfires, resulting in the loss of property and life, economic hardship, and threats to the public's health and safety. And whereas the East Lyme Board of Selectmen approved the previous version of the plan in 2012, and whereas the Southeastern Connecticut Council of Governments, of whom the town of East Lyme is a member, has developed and received conditional approval from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, for its Hazard Mitigation Plan Update 2017 under the requirements of 44 CFR 201.6, and whereas the committee meetings were held and public input was sought in 2016 and 17 regarding the development and review of the Hazard Mitigation Plan Update 2017, and whereas the plan specifically addresses hazard mitigation strategies and plan maintenance procedures for the town of East Lyme, and whereas the plan recommends several hazard mitigation actions that will provide mitigation for specific natural hazards that impact the town of East Lyme with the effects of protecting people and property from loss associated with those hazards, and whereas adoption of this plan will make the town of East Lyme eligible for funding to alleviate the impacts of future hazards. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Selectmen, the plan is hereby adopted as an official plan of the town of East Lyme. 2, the respective officials identifying the mitigation strategy of the plan are hereby directed to pursue implementation of the recommended actions assigned to them. 3, future revisions to the plan maintenance required by 44 CFR 201.6 and FEMA are hereby adopted as a part of this resolution for a period of 5 years from the date of this resolution, and an annual report on the progress of the implementation elements of this plan shall be presented to the Board of Selectmen, adopted this 21st day of February 2018 by the Board of Selectmen of East Lyme, Connecticut, and probably 5 years has gone by since I started that.
Second.
And the next one's going to be due very shortly, because this happens every 5 years. Any other comments, questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstain? We thank our crack staff and, of course, the Council of Governments for helping East Lyme achieve this. Mrs. Wilson's here tonight on the next item, I believe. I'm going to check my agenda twice before I speak, and that is to approve an expenditure of up to $350 from the Parahouse account. Really everyday items for if you were starting an apartment, you'd go to Walmart and fill your carriage up with some of these things. But would you like to, since you came all the way from your home, I'm sorry you came out tonight. We've both been so busy. It's been difficult to connect. So I'm sorry you came out, but thank you for coming out.
Well, I thought that you wanted me here.
Yes, generally, especially the bigger ones. But Tupperware and
Well, you don't have to
spatulas.
explain to everyone. It's not. So let me just start by saying the kitchen is original to the building, which is now 1989, 1990 it opened. So we have replaced all of the appliances, and it's just 25 years worth of wear and tear on. I know it sounds small, but pots and pans and bowls and things, and it's just I just need to get the kitchen into a better working order. So that's really all this is all about. It's just getting some utensils in there that are a little bit better than what we have.
Many people don't know that you have a kind of an endowment fund, if you will. Someone who passed away and left some money, and now other people do the same and leave it to this account called the Powerhouse account, which the senior center can dip into and do these everyday things, but also replace things like stoves and
Right,
redo the
right.
kitchen when necessary, and maybe furniture or other items come from this account, which has greatly enhanced our senior center and makes it one of the best in the region, partly because of this endowment fund, which we get to utilize when necessary. The process is the Council of Aging has to approve it first.
Right,
It
my
comes to the
Commission on
Board of
Aging.
Selectmen.
Correct.
We also, should we approve it, it doesn't go any further. It doesn't go to the Board of Finance. It doesn't go to town meeting. You're then free to spend that money up to that amount. I think we're ready for a motion, and then we can question.
Right. Move to approve an expenditure of up to $350 from the Powerhouse account to purchase miscellaneous kitchen supplies for the East Lyme Community Center kitchen.
I'll second.
Thank you. Any comments? Anything to add, Mrs. Wilson?
No, thank you, Mark.
Thank you for doing such good work.
Thank you
Thanks
for
coming
putting
out
me
tonight.
before the Board of Education
Yeah.
budget. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. My little $350, I appreciate.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstained?
Thank you.
Yeah, that proves that I like you. Okay? Speaking of the Board of Ed, are you guys up next? I think you are. Budget presentation. This is an annual requirement. It's, we're happy to get scheduled properly this year for the Board of Ed to make their presentation of their budget to the Board of Selectmen. We can't tear it apart. We can make recommendations and ratify it or not, and send it to the Board of Finance for their review.
Good. That's that? Yeah. Did you get to work?
Well, we're just kind of, this is what I tried to. Oh,
Yeah, shut the light out for probably right
Did I
behind
do
us.
that? It's right on the wall. Oh, she's got it. Can we stay here because we have copies of this? Yeah.
Okay. See if it can work. Okay, so, we begin?
Is it working?
Do I need to?
It says no signal. Let me go back to that.
Yeah, let's go. Hang on a second.
Computer.
Yes.
That's a good sign.
There we go.
Okay.
No, I have to move the camera up a little bit, that's all. I see that people at home aren't going to see that very well anyway, but it's all right.
Does it need to go? Yeah, there you go. And then
Oh, that's
put it
much better.
In slideshow. There, yeah, okay, good. Okay, good evening, and thanks for having us come and to present our budget. I'm Tim Hagan, the current chair of the East Lyme Board of Education. We do have a couple of three board members here tonight. Al Littlefield, who's our board secretary, Candace Carlson, who chairs our AAA committee, which is for academics, achievements, and athletics, and Jamie Shelburne, who chairs our policy committee as well. So, and I think Eric Ballman was here for a few minutes. We dismissed him. He's one of the co-chairs of our finance committee. We are very glad to be able to come and present to you, and we look forward to your comments and input. Jeff is our superintendent's going to do all the heavy lifting, and Mariana is here as well, our finance director, to help answer questions. the great thing about this, our process has gotten better and better with our superintendent and with Mariana being on board. And we have really started our budget deliberations much earlier. In fact, we actually start in the early fall. And then had a couple of workshops as well. We invited members from the Board of Finance to those workshops also. And Jeff led us through a series of meetings as he worked building a zero-based budget with his administrative team. So our budget deliberations in early January were pretty straightforward because we've done all the heavy lifting during the fall. And there were some questions and things that were discussed and so forth, but in the end, the board unanimously adopted the recommendations from the superintendent. And Jeff was going to walk you through kind of the major points of our budget proposal. The board certainly does appreciate your comments and input. We also appreciate that balance that always has to be struck between what's right for the education, the quality of education, maintaining it here in East Lyme where we are at, as well as the burden to those that have to finance or pay for it, the taxpayers. So we're fully aware of that as well. So with that, Jeff, you want to?
Thank you, Dr. Hagan. Again, Jeff Newton, superintendent, as well as resident, 53 Harbor Crossing, proud resident. I want to thank our Board of Ed members as well for being here and members of the audience. We have some slides we want to take you through and talk about as it pertains to our proposed, or our Board of Ed, I should say, adopted budget for the 18-19 school year. First, our presentation purpose focuses on three specific things. It's clearly communicating and gaining support and commitment to this budget and the budget process. Dr. Hagan talked for a minute about how we worked diligently prior to me presenting to the Board of Ed. I think that started that process off with some clear communication with our Board of Education and growing from there. Zero-based budgeting practices was also mentioned. It's building the budget from the ground up. And that's extremely important. It's something we started last year. We've continued this year. So we're making sure we're allocating our dollars for what we know is most important within our budget and making sure that money is spent wisely. Transparency as well as fiscal responsibility ties in with that too. And lastly, everything needs to tie into our new long-range plan and our district mission statement. That's essential. We don't want to be spending dollars for things that are not aligned with within those areas. And I'll go right to our mission statement, which I won't read to you, but is up there. I want to draw your attention to our long-range goals. Very simplistic, three main goals that are part of our 5-year long-range plan. It's focusing decisions and system operations on student success, having and maintaining a collaborative culture, and then that third one, student-centered learning, we're going to talk a little bit about later on as it pertains to some of our social and emotional focus areas later in the presentation. Next, I'll bring you right to the East Lyme Board of Ed adopted budget for 2018-19. We are at, over the current year or prior year's budget, a new amount of $47,776,943. It equates out to a 2.59% increase. That increase is the lowest since my 3 years here in district has been. I think it speaks to us really streamlining our education budget, working hard, again, building it from the bottom up. And you can see as we project out what the previous years have been, what the Board of Ed budgets have been, and what our adopted budgets have been as well. And to be determined, obviously, for 18-19 at the Board of Finance level. Key budget drivers in any district or school district budget. We are really focusing on fixed costs that we have very little control over. And that really focuses around in our staffing as well as our health insurance. There are some other items that we have to be cognizant of as well: transportation, operating expenses, utilities, liability insurance, leases, plant maintenance, etc. But we really want to bring your attention to salaries and employee benefits. We have contractual obligations, and we need to meet those contractual obligations with increases. Cost saving and avoidance measures. Although there are increases, we worked very hard to offset those increases with some cost saving measures. I've already mentioned zero-based budgeting. I'll bring your attention to our food service program change. For this current year, we went from a contracted service in Chartwell's for food service management. It's been going on for years. It really has been keeping us in the red in our finances. We've had to have money in our operating budget to offset the cost of that food service program. We've done away with Chartwell's. We hired our own food service director. This time last year, we were around $40,000 in the red. Currently, we're just over $7,000 in the black. So I think we've made a great move in changing our food service program, better quality of food, more energy, as well as focus on what we're providing our students. And food service is not to make, we're not here to make money in that venture, but we are making sure that we need to break even. And we're in the black now, and we can take those dollars that we always put in our operating budget to offset the cost of Chartwell's out. So that's a savings for next year. High deductible health plan came into play when I had come into district. We're still seeing some savings from that. We've rolled everyone over to that health insurance, having an HSA, a health savings account, and the HDHP, moving away from the PPO. Our new assistant superintendent, I shouldn't say new anymore. Amy's been with us now for going on her second year, but ongoing software and curriculum contract consolidation. Previously, our principals at the school level were reaching out and looking for different software to utilize in their school, some different contracted services, and we've consolidated that up to the district level and been able to have quite a bit of savings in that area. We had some savings in moving over from oil and propane gas to natural gas. We just rolled the central office building over. Flanders School is online to roll over. Our pool, we have that natural gas line that comes into the high school already as part of that campus, that north campus. So natural gas, as we know, is cheaper than oil and propane. I won't go through the rest of them, but there's some district and town collaboration we're starting to talk more about and look at. Snow plowing, for instance. We're trying to work with Department of Public Works and Mr. Bergaw on maybe sharing some snow plowing duties to save us from having to contract out for those dollars. Currently, we spend about almost $20,000 in contracted snow removal services to help offset our crew. We can do that hopefully for free, working with the town maybe. And give back as well to having our smaller trucks go and plow in smaller areas for them. So we're working on that. And Medicaid reimbursement, really trying to look at capturing more dollars with Medicaid reimbursement for some of our students who are identified under special education. The future as well. I won't go through each and every one of these, but we should really stamp the word regional across this. This is something that every district is needing to look at. Our state is looking at it. How do we work harder to regionalize services? These are a number of areas that we need to continue to look at. I have food services up there again because maybe the idea of having our food service director oversee Salem's food service program, for instance, or Waterford's food service program, for instance, sharing. They're paying us. We have one director overseeing, bigger programs. Things of that nature is things we need to be investigating, and we're researching and looking out to save dollars. It's the wave of the future. It's what we're going to have to be focusing on doing moving forward. So a couple of the other ones up there: student transportation, sharing, transportation services. Every district has kids that go to off-site locations for educational purposes. We are obligated to transport those usually. That could be a cost of $50,000. So maybe we have another district nearby that's transporting a child to the same school. Why not share amongst ourselves in one van carrying two students half the cost? So things of that nature we're continuing to look at. To give you a picture of our district enrollment, there's